Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for sharing the needs that you're seeing in your context, the things that are kind of in common. Thank you, thank you. Our elementary advisory team will take those and then look at what strengths we have in our community, and we will try to then figure out how we can support everyone in moving forward and meeting those needs. So I'm excited about that. So thank you. Hopefully you got to kind of reconnect with old friends and meet new friends. One thing that I forgot to ask you, if you have not signed in for the day, on the shared meeting notes at the top, the sign in, please do that so that we can keep track of who is here and make sure that I get the email to you with all of the notes afterwards. I also went in and answered the questions in the question document. So you should be able to have those answers. Okay, we are going to move on to the state of affairs, pressing issues. Exciting news this year is elementary, the cycle for elementary PAIMS. Some of you, this is old hat, you know this very well. You've been on the selection committee, you've actually been an awardee or a finalist. Some of you, this is brand new too. So we're just going to quickly go over it. PAIMS stands for the Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. That now, while they've kept the same acronym, it's been expanded to include engineering and computer science. They attach engineering with science and computer with mathematics. So, but they still call it the same two things. I don't know, sounds like they needed a new acronym. PAIMS is kind of long anyway. So, you know, a new acronym. But yeah, like they're gonna listen to me on the national level. It is a fabulous award though. It's the highest recognition for a K-12 educator in the United States. And it's offered by the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. It's a big deal. It's not a little deal. It's a big deal. It was established by Congress in 1983, and every year up to 108 exemplary teachers can be recognized. Every other year it's elementary. So last year it was secondary. That goes to the two teachers, one for the science and engineering, one for the math and computer science. So 2 from every state, and then the additional 8 are from our territories or commonwealths. They get a signed certificate by the United States. That's a big deal. And not a little deal, $10,000. Just that's a little deal. Also, hopefully this year, a trip to Washington, D.C., they really roll out the red carpet, make it very nice. Take you to the Smithsonian, you meet with just way cool people. So it's a great event. This shows the event at the Smithsonian, actually, just so you can visualize it. Anyone can nominate a teacher. It could be you, it could be me, it could be a principal, it could be the teacher's students, it could be a superintendent, it could be a family member. Could be a friend, it could be the teacher themselves. And we do get all of those nominations. They just have to be a 6th grade teacher. They need to be teaching, have a full-time employment, but be teaching with students at least 50% of the time. And then they need to have taught for 5 years prior to this year. They also need to teach in one of the 50 states or one of our commonwealths or territories. It's not for like a teacher on an alternative route to licensure or the new Apple program. They need to actually have a bachelor's degree, be a US citizen, and not receive the PAIMS award at the national level prior to this. So those are just, but those are pretty basic eligibility requirements. And you can always nominate anyone. If they're not eligible, it's no harm, they'll just say I'm not eligible. I'm wondering, Chris Cayley, she's getting called on at the last minute. Are you still here? Chris?
Yes, I am.
Through this, well, so have other people, but I specifically called on Chris because I thought she was for sure going to be here. Would you just give like a 60-second spiel as to why this matters. What was this for you as someone who was nominated?
Yeah, so first of all, when you nominate someone, if you have not yet in the past, it isn't like you nominate them and then they go on to be a finalist. It's a rigorous process once you're nominated. So you want to think about if maybe nominating and finding out if your candidate wants to take this on. It's like I said, it's intensive. And so it's like, I looked at it as like it's an incredible professional learning opportunity. So through the process, you're guided as a teacher in really in-depth reflective process. So you're looking at your work really deeply and reflecting. And I really just enjoyed that experience, and I learned a ton about my teaching. So it's a great professional learning to go through. And then if you do get to go on to be a finalist, you are treated really well. There's a dinner here, a banquet. And it's really nice to feel, acknowledged as a science teacher and educator, because we don't always get that. So I recommend nominating someone for this.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Nominating someone is really easy. You just need to know their email, their name. Hopefully you know their name if you're nominating them. Which award category, is it the math or the science? Remember, the science includes engineering. Their school name, you can probably look up the address, the telephone number, and then just your contact information in case something goes wrong. They can come back to you and say, we had problems with this. Can you help us find this person? It takes maybe 2 minutes to nominate someone. And last cycle, so 2 years ago, for science, we had the most people that were nominated and then completed the application in the history of Utah. That's amazing. So I'd like to keep that up this year, because that just means more teachers have had the fabulous opportunity that Chris had. So what I'm wondering is if you can we're going to take 4 minutes. So it's 1:42. If you can go to www.paimps.org and nominate at least one person. Actually, let's have a competition. Who can nominate the most people in 4 minutes? So you're under the gun. All right, your time starts now. We'll come back at 1:46. Go nominate, people. Okay, my friends, let's take about 30 seconds to kind of finish up who you're nominating. And then if you will type in the chat, how many you were able to nominate. We'll see who our grand winner is. So far, I'm seeing 0 people were nominated. That's worrisome. So hopefully we were able to. Oh, yay, Cami nominated one. Amy got one. That's fabulous. Megan, that's a good question. They can be in a middle school. They just need to teach 6th grade for at least 50% of the day. They could teach 7th or 8th for the rest of the day, but they would need to be the 6th graders 50% of the time. Good question. Oh, good. I'm seeing people have got some nominated. Thank you. Thank you. If you have a chance at some point later and you can think of other teachers who would be good for this, who are great teachers, who this process will even refine them to be even better master teachers, and who could use some recognition, this is a great program. Like Chris said, and Maggie's been through it as well. It's not simple. They're going to have to put in some work and some reflection, but I think it's well worth their time. So we are going to move on to the next section of our meeting, which is effective science instruction and the 3-dimensional resource share. We're looking specifically at core guides. I'm hearing lots of great things about core guides. I'm also, when I go around, hearing a lot of teachers don't know about them. And if they do know about them, they think they're supposed to read them from the beginning to the end. And so there's a lot of maybe misunderstandings because they just don't know what they are and what their purpose is. So I thought we would quickly just go through what are the pieces, the elements in the core guide, and then go into breakout rooms and discuss how can we help our educators know what they are and how to use them effectively. So for our core guides, nope, not there. Yep, here. We're going to look at 6th grade. So within the core guides for every standard, it tells you the strand so that teachers understand where does this fit into the big idea of the standards for this grade. You've got the standard listed and what does this align to with NGSS, because that's going to help them find some resources for lessons, for lesson plans. There's also, for each of the 3 dimensions, what does this mean for this standard? So there's a brief description along with what we expect students to do in each of those 3 dimensions. So that's helpful for teachers as they're thinking about instruction. What should I have them doing? How should I have them thinking? What should they be able to know and apply? So that's important. There's also the progressions, because a lot of teachers are unsure, so where do I start? Where do I stop? Because something like photosynthesis, where do I, what's my piece? This tells you exactly what your piece is. So the grade band progressions are very helpful, and we have those for each one of the 3 dimensions. So you've got them for the science and engineering practices, the cross-cutting concepts, and the disciplinary core ideas. So what is my piece in this? And in the disciplinary core ideas, it not only tells you what am I responsible for this grade level or this grade band, but what standard was it in prior, and where will they be going? What standard will they see it in next? So that you can kind of get an idea of where they've been from and where they're going to. We also, in the core guides, put in sentence stems because science discourse is so important. How can we get more science talk, get students talking appropriately for science? So there are sentence stems in here. New this year are the formative assessment clusters. They're already linked. We're hoping to go in and just refine them more in November so that they're finished and done. There's also a section on phenomena that apply this concept so that teachers have access to. A lot of them say, well, I don't know where does this actually fit? What phenomena could I use? Well, this tells. There's also proficiency standards to say, what does proficiency look like? It tells you right here. Okay, my friends, so that's your brief walkthrough. Now, if we look back at our slides, really what we're hoping to focus on today is to answer in breakout rooms, how have you made this resource known and available to your educators so that it gives other people ideas about doing this? And then how can we make it usable for them? So even if they have it, a lot of them don't understand what it is or how to use it. So how have you made it usable, or how can you help them make it? So we'll spend 15 minutes in breakout rooms talking about this, because this is pretty critical. And then we'll come back and be able to kind of share out. So in your meeting notes, there's a spot for you to ask questions as a group. More completely that you can answer these will really help someone in another context. So I am going to open up our breakout rooms again, and you'll have about 15 minutes, maybe a little bit shy of that, to really answer these questions so that we can make sure that the core guides are useful for all teachers and not just a pretty document that sits unused, because I think they're really valuable. Okay, I'm opening up all the rooms. Have a great time. See you back. I'll note telling you when we're coming back. Okay, let's take about 20 more seconds. And if you haven't finished, that's okay. You can finish while we talk or at a later time. Don't feel like, if there's not enough rows, please add another one. Don't feel like, oh, it's full. Just add another row. Okay, my friends, if we could start coming back, and if possible, I would love to see your faces as you come back from doing this so that we can move on to our next section. I know we're ready to roll. Thank you, my friends. Okay, so the last half hour is, I think, going to be awesome, because we are going to look at a national resource that's built to help us during this time. So we are going to look at teaching K-12 science and engineering during a crisis. While I was hoping we would be out of a crisis, we're not. All 5 of my grandkids have COVID right now, so we're not out of a crisis. They will end up being in quarantine 21 days by the time they all get through. So I think we're still in crisis, is what I've decided. And I'm sad because that's like a month until I'll get to see them again. So I think we're all still feeling the effects of the pandemic, and students will be in and out, and it's going to, so I think we're living this. So like I say, this is put on by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, and specifically the Board on Science Education. So you should be able to click on here and get into the document. You will need to be in the document for our last half hour because we are going to do an in-depth dive into that document. Please let me know if you can't access it. Hopefully everyone. Is anyone having problems getting into the document? Show me thumbs up if you're there. Looks like most of us are. If you're not, I will put my copy up on the screen for the first little bit so that you have something to look at, and then we'll see if we can figure out how to get you there. So what we're going to do is read page 59 and 60 of this document just together, because I think that really helps us think about, I have way too many screens open. Let me close out a couple to get them off of here so that they're not in your way. Okay, so we really want to think about what do we see within these pages that helps us maximize instructional time, and what other insights might we find in the document. So let's take, just to read 59 and 60 down to where there's the first question. You won't need to go beyond the first question that it gives you. The question is, how can instructional time be used most effectively? We'll look at that in a minute. So just the first, page and 2/3. Let's take about 3 minutes to read that, really thinking about, we'll come back and whole group share what ideas do we see that provide insights into how we can maximize instruction time, and what other insights do we see to help us during this time of crisis. Okay, your 3 minutes for 59 and 60 starts right now. Go.
Hi, sorry to interrupt reading. Melissa, is that page 59 on the PDF or 59 on the bottom? Sorry, I missed that.
Good clarification. It's PDF on it's page 59 on the actual document page numbering. Thank you for clarifying. Chapter 5. Okay, my friends, you may not quite be done. That's okay. Let's come back together. And I'm wondering if anyone would mind just kind of sharing out, either in the chat or if you feel comfortable, opening your mic to show, to say, you know, what did you find insightful or what did you find helpful about the ideas in these first couple of pages?
Melissa, the thing that stood out to me most was the part on the second page where it said whether learning and teaching happens in class or remotely now. The big idea is that we're still focused on the same vision of science and engineering education. In other words, students making sense of phenomena or solving real world problems three-dimensionally. In other words, don't go an inch deep and a mile wide, still have that in-depth discussion, that sense making of students that still happens, still take the time to where they can be in that driver's seat and have to figure out real world situations. I know personally, if I go super fast, it becomes, you know, I tell, but we don't want that. We want that depth still want phenomenon based, still want all those principles from framework.
Thank you, Nate. I think that is a really insightful thought, that we need to keep the vision, even if we don't get to all the standards. It's important we keep the vision and the depth, and don't revert to just lecture again. So thank you for sharing that. There's also a comment in the chat. Anyone else want to share? Go on microphone and share something they found insightful.
So right underneath where Nate was talking about, it talks about it is challenging to figure out how to save instructional time. And we have a big push for discourse to help kids make sense of what they're learning. And when we say save time instructionally, those two things seem counterintuitive because it takes time to lead discourse and give time for kids to make sense. But in the long run, the gains of that are so much more. And so even though it seems counterintuitive, we have to remember that, like, I think comes back to what Nate was saying, was that we have to keep our eye on the vision and realize that it's going to buy us time in the end, but we have to be efficient with that.
Thank you, Cami. I think that's another really critical idea. The authors of this report move into now saying, so once they gave that introduction, they said, here are some ways we can still do that, maintain this vision, maintain time to talk. So I want you to look through what they're suggesting we move from and move to, and think what's insightful about that, or what are you noticing? So let's take just a couple of minutes to read through that and think about what's important to know, what's insightful. Hey, my friends, who would want to unmute and just say, this is what I saw that was insightful to me, or this is something I noticed?
thing that I noticed on this chart is it's moving from just getting through the stuff and moving into let's acquire learning and the ability to learn independently as you go along. So it's not just let's fill out the worksheet and move on. It's let's do the sense making. Let's build that bank of knowledge for kids.
Thank you, Bev. I think that's very important.
I also loved where the academic disciplines, where they're taking advantage of the overlaps, where they're bundling certain things, when they are making these deep proficiencies broadly applicable. You're finding these different things that are compoundable and making sure that these deeper pieces are really where learning across the board is, how we're maximizing these pieces, the learning. So I like that.
Thank you very much. One thing that kind of jumped out to me is they really do talk about this idea of integrating where there are natural connections and building deeper proficiencies through integration, which is our focus this year, as you've just heard from USBE. So I thought that was interesting that that was the focus that was selected, and this report came out, and that's one of the big things that they select. How can we bundle things together? How can we really think about making those connections? How can we look deeply instead of just, shallow? And another one I thought was really interesting is in the bottom right corner, this idea of prioritizing relationships, which I think comes from what Cami was talking about, this idea to talk. We're going to build those relationships as we talk, which also builds our understanding within the discipline as well. So I think that's interesting. Okay, we are going to dig into these 5 ideas more deeply, but we're all busy people. So we're going to do it. We're going to divide and conquer, basically. So in this chapter 5, these ideas, you'll each be sent to a breakout room. I've kind of redistributed the breakout room to make them a little bit more even. You're going to read the information for your section. Then on the Google slide that corresponds with your breakout room, you're going to write down the important information in that section. And then I don't think we'll decide on a facilitator. I think what we'll do is a gallery walk at the end. So make sure that your information is in nuggets that people can understand and digest themselves. Okay? So let me show you what that will look like. So if you get sent to breakout room 1, you're going to go and look on the actual document, the page number on the document, page 60 to 64, and answer. These are the 2 questions that they answer that deal with what we should be moving toward. So what are the major insights? Same thing if you get sent to breakout room 4, you'll be looking at those pages. Breakout room 2 will look at 70 to 75. So they're kind of mixed up. 5 pages seems like a lot, but there are big boxes with teacher vignettes built in that I think we can skip over those. So I think we're just kind of looking at the text pieces. So we are going to take 10 minutes as a group. So by the end of the 10 minutes, make sure that you have that information on your Google Slides. So you might even want to split the text a little bit within your group, and then everyone can kind of write so that we have something digestible for that whole chapter in this idea of how do we really get into meaningful instruction, maximizing our instructional time. Okay, so I'm going to open the rooms. Does anyone have a question about what we're going to be doing for the next 10 minutes? We good? Okay, my friends, I'm opening the rooms. I will see you back in 10 minutes. Hi, do you say your name Renee Baker?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. I just didn't want to say it wrong.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know it's like spelled weird. Everyone's like, that's the male way to spell it. And I'm like, my mama did it. I don't know.
Oh, it looks lovely to me. I just wanted to make sure I said it right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Sorry, that was fast, but you know, we're busy people. We don't have a ton of time. So I'm sure you're used to doing things quickly. We're going to do just this last little bit in a bit of a different way. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to look through the other room's comments. And then when I say waterfall, you're going to type as fast as you can in the chat the one thing that you're like, this is insightful to me, or I want to remember this, or I'm going to use this. So you're looking through for what you really want to remember or use, or, you know, this is enlightening. Okay, so you have 2 minutes to look through, and then we'll do our waterfall in the chat. So your 2 minutes starts now. Go. Okay, my friends, think about what you want to put in the chat, because it's time for waterfall. Go. Wow, I'm seeing some amazing ideas. These are great things. I like Laura Cotter's phenomena. Don't have to be fancy. They're what we're really doing. Oh, these are great things. Thank you. Eliminate the busy work, keeping the 3 dimensions. I need to check out the NSTA's daily dues. So thank you for sharing that. Oh, thank you everyone for your wonderful ideas. In closing, I've decided that I'm going to give you a Mendenhall's message each time. So since we're thinking about this idea of connections and asset-based thinking, everyone's living a hard life. Things are challenging. And I think sometimes we forget to look at the positive, and I think sometimes we forget to be human, and that other people are human. I think it's easy to do over Zoom. So I thought about Aesop, and he said, be kind, everyone's fighting a hard battle. So I hope we remember that. And also think about, we have great people here. We have wonderful people, great experience. And Emily Dickinson has a poem that talks about how they might not need me, but they might. I'll let my head be just in sight. A smile as small as mine might be precisely their necessity. While we can't be in person and see each other's smiles, we can recognize the work that we're each doing. So my homework for you is to email someone or text someone to say, I love this resource that you shared, or thank you for this comment. This meant a lot to me, so that we can connect and we can really think about the positive things that are going on, because we have great things happening in the state. We just need to reach out and I think connect more. So anyway, that's my hope for each of you. And then I really would like you in your last 30 seconds to think, what is one thing I can take and implement tomorrow? Because otherwise, yeah, we had a lovely time for 2 hours, but what's one thing you can take away from this? So if you'll just take a second and jot it down on a piece of paper, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to write that down, what you're going to do tomorrow based on today. All right, it is 3 o'clock. I love you guys. You're awesome. Thanks for your hard work. Have a wonderful day. And I hope I see you tomorrow at the K-12 from 1 to 3. I'll try to refrain from crying tomorrow. I got it out today. Weren't you lucky? Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you for working so hard and participating.
Thanks, Melissa. I love the emotion.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks to all of
Melissa.
you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.